Welcome again, man, to Black Fly on the Wall, the podcast. I have some amazing gentlemen here to discuss a very interesting topic. I think compromises in relationships is something that we continue to analyze on a daily basis. And it's not only relationships with your intimate significant other, but we're talking about relationships with family, business, friends, siblings, um, wives, husbands, whatever it may be. We talk about compromises, and I think the interesting part about compromises, it has to be something that you have to be willing to do. Right, a compromise doesn't happen unless a person is willing to make one. And so we're just gonna start off with that. So Slim, I got my boy Slim with me. I got my boy
Yeah.
Sam with me. I got my boy Jiaani with me. We're just
What's
gonna have an
up?
amazing conversation about compromises. Gianni, what has been some of your experiences with compromises within relationships, and what are some of the things that you've analyzed over time with that?
Yeah, man. So for me, I had to break the word down for real, right?
Mhm.
Because I think we got like a confusion of what the word means. So if you break the word in half, the calm part of it means together or in association with.
Okay.
And then the second part of the word is promise. Crazy.
Right. Oh yeah. I've
Right.
analyzed that. That's
But for
good.
some reason we think like compromise means like I have to be lesser than you or you have to be
Mhm.
more than me, right?
Right.
Mhm.
So I think that was the first thing for me of just understanding like compromise within my marriage. For me, it's more about long term, right? Like what we doing long term. You know what I mean? Sometimes I'll take the back seat if sometimes you'll do the same, or the passenger seat rather,
Right.
right?
Right.
Um, I think if the relationship makes sense, whether it's friendships, whether it's marriage or whatever it is, I think that it has to be some level of like humility,
Mhm.
right?
Facts.
Yeah. Yeah. Take. I think being humble is synonymous with compromising,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
especially if you do it in the right spirit.
right.
Like what you were saying is like you don't have to take a particularly back seat, but you can also take a passenger seat
Right,
to let your business partner, your family member,
right.
or whoever
Agreed.
drive in that particular situation. Slam, with you owning your studio with your partner, like how has compromise came in the success of you all studio?
Well, we have our roles, you know what I'm saying? And when you have agreement with a partner, y'all have roles, and as long as you trust each other's roles, it's easier to compromise.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't even come to compromising anymore. It's that you're in your position, I'm in my position, and when we have a disagreement about something, we talk it out.
Mm-hmm.
Because like we both have the same goal,
Absolutely.
and we're both, heading to the same place.
Absolutely.
So in order to get there, someone got to drive one day, and someone got to drive the other day. You know what I'm saying? Someone got to put the gas in the car. Another person, got to pay.
Facts.
Like,
Facts.
And so I believe that too. Even when doing the show, like we have to always make sure that okay, what direction are we going in, and what's
Yep.
the compromise with that?
Yep.
Like, do we have to sacrifice more time? Do we have to sacrifice more money? Do we have to put in more energy? Do we have to open our minds to new concepts? Like
Yep.
that's one of my favorite affirmations, is being open to new ideas and concepts.
mm-hmm.
It's because we often attach ourselves to a particular way of viewing life, viewing reality. But if you open up your mind to a different concept, that allows you to see life from a different lens. And I think as a person that's working to grind to get to a particular level, to achieve a particular goal, there has to be a level of compromise with that.
Agreed. I think one thing that stood out to me is what you said. It got to make sense,
Mhm.
right? For anything. I think when we hear compromise, for me personally, I think it's a tug of war between feeling and logic a lot of times, right? And I seen a clip earlier this week, and the guy was like, when a woman tells you how she feels, it's not a moment for your logic. Throw your logic out the window. But then I
That's
think
good.
about it and I'm like, for a man who doesn't typically practice throwing his logic out the window,
Mhm.
the moment he does that, he risks putting his family in danger. He risks putting himself in danger. Like, even in this room, I might feel like I'm safe, but I got 5 exit plans that I ain't even told y'all
Right.
about. Like, I do that when I go to restaurants, everything. Like, and I feel like that's where we kind of, like I said, have that tug of war. It's like, when we compromise, when do I let go of the logic and when do I increase the feeling and vice versa?
Right.
You know what I mean?
I
But
can
I think that
understand
comes. I think that comes with compassion, though. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like,
True.
you actually have to like appreciate and love the person that you're compromising with. You know what I'm saying? And once you do that, you compromise and you have compassion for them and you listen
Yeah.
to them. And it's not always about trying to fix it. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
as men, that's just our default.
Yeah, we be trying to fix
We
it.
fix
Right.
Yeah.
Right,
What's the
right.
problem?
And I
Let's fix it.
believe too is like we have to make sure that we know when to turn the logic on and when to turn it off.
Yes.
Mhm.
Like you said, an amazing quote there, especially as it pertains to relationships. I think that's where men often struggle when it comes to compromise, is because we buy into these gender roles.
Yep.
We
Mhm.
buy into what the man is supposed to be doing. We buy into what we told ourselves we were supposed to be doing within the relationship. But we all know relationships evolve. And so
Right.
we have to make sure that we're evolving over time. And I think one of the biggest compromises a man can make is to incorporate empathy on a
Mhm.
daily basis. You know, being showing grace as well to themselves,
Yep.
not being so hard on yourself,
Right.
but also to the people that you love, the people that you're in relationships with, family, whomever. Is to always keep that hat of empathy, that hat of compromise, that hat of showing grace often on a daily basis, because it's easy for for us to let our masculinity
Yep.
rise to the top. But like that's what we're talking about with the book A New Earth. We talked about suppressing the ego. So it's tough for compromise to live in the house of ego,
Mhm.
right? It's kind of contradicts itself. So as men, we have to oftentimes suppress the ego, and the way that we do that is by checking ourselves and
Right.
being open to being checked by the people that
Right.
love us as well.
Yep.
'Cause if
Also,
not, it's gonna be one-sided, and
Yep.
that's not only one person is compromising.
There you go.
in the ego, people get this thing confused. Like the ego is not meant to ride with you in every situation, dog.
Hmm.
Like if you have a relationship with a woman, like that's your wife, that's your lady, right? You have to know when to let that go too, though. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying? The ego is a
Mhm.
protection thing that protects the soul and the spirit, right?
Hmm.
That's the human form. But once we decide that, yo, I want to marry you, I want to be with you, right?
Mhm.
I'm supposed to be comfortable to let that down
Yeah.
too
Absolutely.
at the same time. You know what I'm
Absolutely.
saying?
That's what vulnerability is.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, you're leaving yourself vulnerable. But that's the beautiful thing about love, is that love is so crazy that it can show you a completely different side of life and reality,
Beautiful.
but also leave you
Yeah.
open to being hurt at the same time.
Exactly.
But you can't really experience love without risking being
Yeah.
hurt.
That's it.
So that's that balance
That's
of
it.
polarity.
And we don't like that risk though.
Right. Men, we like to mitigate risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we like to mitigate risk in our business.
Yeah.
We like to mitigate risk in finances.
Yeah.
We like to mitigate risk in our even in our mental health. We
Yeah.
mitigate risk. But when it comes down to the relationships that we're in, we like to kind of try to apply that same template, that same palette to that, and you can't.
But you know, with the mitigating thing though, a lot of that is ego too though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Control is control.
Mm-hmm.
So we even want to control whether it's I don't want this to happen, or I'm working hard so this don't happen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But that's ego too though.
But it
Right.
goes back to what you said about like willingness, right? Like
Yeah.
the more I know somebody cares about me, or the more I care about somebody else, I'm more willing to open myself up and
Right.
be vulnerable.
But it's
So,
also trust. Like you gotta
Mm.
trust other people to do what you
Yeah.
Ooh.
yeah.
do what you have them around you
That's
for. You know what I'm
that's a-
saying? To
that's a
show you
trigger
that love,
word.
that compassion,
Yeah,
that
that's right.
that assistant, that helper, that partner. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Who you choose to be with, you have to trust them to have your back. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And
Yep.
that's a compromise.
And you know the interesting thing about trust. The interesting thing about trust is that many times we trust the individuals that we are in relationships with. It's just the fact that sometimes they don't do things the way we would typically do them,
Mm.
and we typically don't manage our expectations when it comes to that. So, for an example, we can say if me and Slim are in the same business, and I say, for instance, I trust him to do something, I have to be open to the fact that you're going to do it differently,
Mhm.
but achieve the same goal.
That's
And
right.
you got to compromise on perfection, because a
Mhm.
lot of times the moment somebody isn't perfect, when we trust them, we lose it, and you can't get it back.
Yep.
Like, so when you care about somebody, you got to compromise and say, look, all right, I'll give you several chances to build a
Right.
trust, and it's not going to be lost on
But
the first
also
instance.
too, like I feel like perfection is like something that we place on ourselves, or it's also unrealistic.
Yeah.
To the point where, like Bruce Lee said, like we have to be like a wave, like floating. We have to go with the wave.
Mhm.
And so sometimes like we have to detach ourselves from trying to be in control of whatever the situation
Yeah.
is, and say, you know what? Whatever my wife, fiance, girlfriend, or whatever way she does that particular thing, I'm going to allow her to do that in her own particular way. And it may be tough to watch,
Yeah.
like cringe-worthy, but I also kind of like the world, like everything comes full circle, right? So
Yeah.
like I remember like the times like my mom would tell me to do something and I would do it my way, but I saw that it was kind of cringeworthy for her to watch me do it my way, but it still kind of got to the same result, right?
You ain't sleep under that couch.
But hey, so I kind of, you have to also like apply those lessons that from a childlike behavior, and apply that as adults.
But so isn't perfection ego too? Like
yes,
very much ego.
I think anything we attach ourselves to, and we place a label on it, is ego.
Yeah.
Whereas we have the full potential and the full consciousness to be able to consciously make decisions to say, you know what, I'm going to allow this to flow in the direction that it is. Now I have a particular goal, I have a particular way that a thing of what I want to achieve, but you know what, I'm going to allow this to just flow in the way, and I feel like that's where pure creativity comes from.
Facts. You gotta be flexible to be a creative.
Right. Now we talked about mitigating risk and ego within your personal relationships with your woman. How does compromise come into play?
My way or the highway? Nah, I'm just kidding.
That's the opposite of what you want to say.
I think it's something that's practiced. A lot of communication, because no two people are the same. You can't make the same compromises in one relationship that you did in another relationship. Especially as adults, we work, trying to be creative, trying to like have hobbies and stuff like that. I think it's just communication and figuring out what works for us and kind of building off of that instead of trying to cookie cutter, this is what it has to be like.
And two is, do you feel like compromise is a destination or a journey?
It's a journey, because in a relationship, you're two separate people coming together. And y'all are going on a journey together, so you're both are going to grow at different rates and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's a journey. Like there's no, we're going to get to a point where we're just compromising. No, like you compromise on one thing one day, it might change the next day.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And as that changes, you might change. You know what I'm saying?
So as a married man, would you say that you've learned that throughout your marriage because you realize that maybe the wife that you married 5 years ago, how many years have you been married? 5 years ago, may not be the same woman, but you also have to show her grace and ability for her to grow, and you also evolve with that. You feel like marriage is an evolution? Like
it's a constant evolution, and you have, like you were saying before, you have to give yourself that grace to know that you're going to change, your feelings are going to change, your likes are going to change, your support system around you is going to change, and all of that affects your path of growth in your relationship.
But you got to kind of add in too, like, the reason she became a wife is because of the compromises that she made as a girlfriend,
early on.
To a fiance, and same way with you too as well. But like, you can't discredit like the beginning, the journey before that. Right. Yeah.
And Jiaani, what type of experiences have you experienced with your wife when it comes down to evolution and compromise?
It's been intense, man. It's been intense. It's like in a really beautiful way though. I think we just dove into a lot of work at the very beginning, like therapy off top. You know what I'm saying? Off top. Before we do anything, let's take off this trauma that you got. Let's take off this trauma that I got, because every time we argue, our traumas is starting to fight each other. Right? Our egos is clashing, and I can't love you fully if our egos is clashing. Right? So for me, man, it was just about being more like, I feel like being a man is like being more sensitive in learning that with my wife, I'll be the most sensitive that I can be. You know what I'm saying? If I'm gonna do it for anybody, I'm gonna be that for her.
Right. Absolutely.
See what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Because I never planned on getting married. I wasn't planning on that. So I said, like, this is the only one for me. Like, if this don't work,
you want to laugh? Show. You want to laugh? You want to laugh? Show.
I'm not. I never.
You want to laugh? Show God your plan.
Yeah,
right?
This is it. So we got I'm gonna crash this bus before we. You know what I mean?
Right.
So for me, it was just about understanding, like, this has to work. You know what I mean? For my children, for the family, and things like that. So that was both of our compromise. We had a real conversation. It's like, yo, even if we decide to separate one day, we know that we gonna be like, yo, we gave this shit 150%.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
Right. And that's all you can do.
Because I can't make no guarantees, but I can be like, yo, I'm gonna be fully present.
No, and even making a guarantee that you know you cannot cash in on, is your ego.
Come on.
Because what you're trying to do is you're trying to provide security to something that doesn't really need it, right?
Yeah.
I feel like relationships are things that sometimes are not tangible the way we look at them.
Right.
Your relationship is pure energy, and what you put behind it, the energy, the vibe that you put behind it, is what's going to manifest into reality.
Right.
And so we have to continuously look at relationships as something that you can't physically hold on to, but it's actually something that you have to spiritually put work
Yep.
into,
Yep.
verbally put work into, consciously put work into. A lot of times as men, we struggle in relationships because our mind isn't centered and grounded in the area that we want it to be in, right? So we're focusing on other things that are completely opposite of being in a committed relationship. And so I think that it's important for us to gravitate towards that. And I love what you said about therapy, because we have to is when we look at therapy as men, do we look at that as a compromise going into the relationship, or do we look at that as the blueprint as going into a healthy relationship?
I say blueprint.
I think it's all situational. I mean,
because
you know,
it's different. Because I know with me
Yeah.
and my wife, we both
Did you not want to go to therapy? And she did?
we went to couples therapy like at the beginning of our
Okay.
premarital
Right.
counseling
Yeah.
therapy. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? And that got a lot of stuff out of the way and stuff like that.
sure.
But as we were together for years, our own separate traumas start to come up and stuff like that. So
Mhm.
we got therapy separately,
Mm-hmm.
so we could build our better selves up
Right.
while we're still together.
To be a
instead of-
better
right.
spouse.
Instead
Because
of-
like I said, you're two people in a
Right.
relationship.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And y'all have to be two strong people in a relationship in order
Absolutely.
to keep that relationship going.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so I think sometimes too, it's kind of like it's a handicap to sometimes go to therapy with a partner, because you may be afraid to go to therapy by yourself,
Mhm.
because it's just you and that therapist in that room, and that's the time that you have to unpack, versus you're able to then, sometimes when you do couples therapy only,
Yeah.
it places the weight, or you have somebody else carrying the weight with
Right.
you.
Right.
Well, really, it's not. A lot of times you all don't have couples problems.
Yeah.
You got individuals
Individuals.
problems that
Exactly.
merge
Yeah.
together.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Right.
And it's,
Like,
and
we
it's a
just have our own
practice
stuff
though
to work
too.
with.
If you're not used to going to therapy, like ask me 5 years ago, I would have said, I don't care if you go to therapy or not. But you know, what I mean, now that I practice it, and I see like if a woman is practicing it, I'm like, okay, you working on yourself for you to be better for me. You know what I mean? So like you got to go and you got to practice being able to open yourself up in certain situations, because if you go to couples therapy and you scared to say something because you don't want to hurt her feelings, or
Exactly.
you don't want
Or
to
you
hear
know what's
about
gonna
it,
come back home.
exactly.
Right.
You know,
Then you basically wasting an hour of your life.
right, right. And I think the crazy part too is that like relationships transcend over time. And so like for my married fellas, like I have an amazing question for you all. Is like, do you believe that you had to switch your mindset about sex once you got married? Because sex as a single man, you're able to navigate the sexual playing field of having one partner, multiple partners, or even changing what your perspective on sex is. Now you're in the home with one person, and you're now having to center your energy around that. How has your concept or your mindset about sex changed since you've been married?
You got to figure out. It's almost like when you're dating, it's like we gonna have sex when we see each other. You know what I'm saying? That's just
Mhm.
part of the end of the date. Like it's a routine.
Right.
You know what I'm
It's
saying?
it is a
brushing your
routine.
teeth at
Routine,
night.
you know what I'm saying? We go on a date, go out to eat, we have a good time, take a
Facts.
drink, go back to the crib, and that's what it is.
Right.
But like once you're married, you're constantly seeing this person,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have that opportunity to miss them. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
So the level of intimacy has to evolve. So y'all have to make sure y'all take time out for each other and go on dates and do that same stuff that you did before.
Facts.
And you got to change some things up. Like, because if y'all living in the house together for 5 years, where y'all having sex at? The bedroom? That's it.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas you were single, it was
When
the
you're single,
countertop,
it was
living
it was
room,
her
everywhere.
place,
Wherever
her
you
place,
wanted.
my place. We went to a hotel. You know what I'm saying? Different stuff like that.
Yeah.
Right.
So like it changes, but it doesn't have to change to be a bad thing. Like you just have to figure out how each of y'all have grown sexually and
The evolution.
and compromise.
There you go.
and
Yeah.
come together
There you
and
go.
compromise and figure it out from there. And it's going to change again.
Gianni,
Yeah.
deep question.
Yeah. Ask it one more time. I want to answer it right.
Do you feel like going from being a single man
Right.
to you were in a relationship with your now wife,
Yep.
fiance, then marriage? Do you feel like you all sexual? Do you feel like you had to change your mindset? Let's even detach from you and your wife's sexual life now.
Yeah.
But do you feel like as a man you had to change your mindset about sex now that you were married?
So I did that before I met her.
Okay.
I had took like a 5-month cleanse of just no sex in general.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So
Okay.
I was like, it might have been like 4 months. Like 4 months, no alcohol,
Okay.
no sex. I was going through, prior to that, I was in a relationship. I shut that relationship down. And I was like, man, I want to be by myself. You know what I'm saying? So I kind of went through the first stages of it, which was alcohol and all that kind of shit. You know what I'm saying? Can I cuss?
Yo,
Oh,
absolutely.
for sure. Yeah, so yeah.
They edit it out. You
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So I went through the phase of the alcohol and just partying and clubbing and dealing with a lot of different women. And every time I turn around, I was just like, damn, I feel like I'm losing
Right.
me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You gotta,
Like,
you
fast,
give
you
it
gotta
up.
fast from all
doing?
that.
You giving
really
it
gotta
out.
fast from all that
Man,
first.
Yes.
so I started really getting tapped into my energy and just
Mhm.
realizing how I felt when I wouldn't drink, when I wouldn't have sex, when I
Mhm.
wouldn't gossip, when I wouldn't talk. And I was like, oh shit.
It's the
Mhm.
retention.
Let's go.
Pure potentiality.
Yeah,
Mhm.
extra, like for real. So I say that to say, by the time I had got to my wife, it was up. Like it was, you know what I mean? I don't know. It was, I cleansed myself. So when we did, I knew
like a new
immediately from a
experience.
clear space, oh, we getting married.
Absolutely.
Right.
Not because of the sex, but so I say that to say like, and I had told her those things, you know what I mean? So at this time now, it's like, man, we so locked in on our future and the things that we want to do, man. Sex is just like we gonna get to it. We do it. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Right.
But it's not I'm blessed to be in a
It's not an
space
end
where it's
all.
not really thought about.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
when I look at you and you look at me and we locked in, let's go. We turned up, let's go. But it's, you know, we got the kids, we got our future, we got businesses we want to do. So we,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But and the thing is, not to
No, go ahead.
but the thing is, the more she works on herself, the more I work on myself, the sexier we get to each other.
There you go.
Building up that
You
tension.
feel me?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if I'm sitting on a couch and I'm being lazy or something for the day, she'll be like, yo, come on, yo, you gotta get back to it. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? And it's low key telling me like, get your ass up. Like,
Yeah,
you know what I'm
facts.
saying?
You appreciate it
Ah,
too.
for
And you
sure,
like,
but
yo,
you gotta
like,
keep
hell
me on
yeah,
my
yeah.
toes.
Yeah.
That's that different level of intimacy, man.
Yeah.
Like y'all feel each other. Like when
Right.
she's not feeling good or you not feeling good,
Right.
you ain't trying to fuck.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like, you know what I'm
Sure.
saying? You trying to be in your space and shit like that. But when she's confident and you confident and y'all happy
Mhm.
and stuff, that shit's sexy. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Mhm.
saying?
And
Sure.
two, you like what you said was, I think, was pivotal, because what both of you all says that you're transmuting that energy to something else. So whereas as a young man, young single man, but prior
Over
to
the
your
sex.
fast, prior to you maturing, you would basically put all your energy into getting sex.
Yep.
Real talk.
Where
But
now,
everything you do.
everything that you do,
Yeah.
you waking up in the morning, you texting, you trying to set it
Yeah,
up, you
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
line it
yeah.
up. Whereas now, as a mature and aged man, now you're saying, you know what? I wanna scale my business up.
Yeah.
Let me put my energy towards that.
Right.
And
Not
before
only
you
that-
know it, you don't went 2 days without it, just locked into your goals, locked into your dream.
we don't want to give each other whack ass versions of each other either.
There you go.
Mhm.
Like a couple days ago, we was finna, and she was like, I ain't gonna lie, I've been feeling like this, right? Because of another situation.
Uh-huh.
And she was like, I don't even want to give you that. Let me cleanse myself
Yeah.
for like 2.
Mhm.
And I'm like, yo, perfect.
Yeah.
You know
It
what I'm
takes a
saying? Because
mature
I'm on a
woman, though.
high and she might not be on that level. And then
Right.
it
It's
might
key.
be, and
Exactly.
it's like, it's disrespectful of me if I'm in that space of like, I'm dealing with a lot of men. So
Mhm.
constantly I'm dealing with the ego constantly. So when I come home, I got to turn that shit off.
Mhm.
So if I'm wearing that at home and then I go straight to her, I'm transmuting that energy straight to her. Now she got to deal with that,
Absolutely.
you know?
And-
So,
and
And
that's
you can pour into her and that opportunity too to make it more attractive too. Like,
Real
all right, you're
talk.
not, because you were so honest and so transparent. All right, baby, let's do this. To come together and
For
let's
sure.
build that up.
Or
Exactly.
too, sometimes too, like I think for myself, like I realized that intimacy may not always lead to sex in that moment, but it's kind of like making
build
it's like
up.
making a deposit.
I mean,
Facts.
foreplay starts well before having sex.
Mm-hmm.
Foreplay can start the week before.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Setting things up. She might be having a bad Monday, but by
Mhm.
Friday, y'all might be good.
come on,
Right.
let's go.
Or like you said your wife was stressed out about something, about a particular situation. That can be an opportunity or a moment. You know, you give her a massage,
Mhm.
release some tension from her
Mhm.
shoulders.
Yeah.
You know, take care of the dishes, take care of the kids.
Get her something to
From
eat.
your perspective, get her something to eat.
Right.
Kind of
That
like a
always helps
relaxation.
shit out.
helps.
Food always helps.
Always
Yeah.
helps.
So you know, it just allows us to look at it from a different perspective. Now, what things have you learned as far as your communication and how you communicate?
Mm.
Have you had to change the
Yeah.
way that you communicate in the words that you say, your tone, how you say it, how you initiate those certain type of things?
Absolutely. So with
Sure.
me, a lot of my friends will know that Slim is very direct. Like
Mm-hmm.
if you text me, "Hey, good morning, can you do such and such for me?" I'm gonna answer the "can you do such and such for me," and just don't even worry about the
You
good
ain't gonna
morning.
say good morning. You ain't gonna say good
Yeah,
morning.
I ain't gonna say good morning. I have to follow
Yeah.
up with, "Hey, good morning." You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I'm very direct with things, and I'm a fixer, like we was talking about before. Like that's just how I am. I've had family and friends always come to me, "Slim, can you help me?" So that's my mindset. How
Instantly.
can I help you? Let's get this done. But Alicia, my wife, she just wants to talk. You know what I'm saying? She wants me to listen. She doesn't want me to always
tough.
fix it. And
Yeah.
it's tough for
That's
me
tough.
to do that because
It's
I
tough.
love her and I don't want to see her like that.
Right.
So me as a man, I have to check that ego, like we were saying, and just shut up and listen.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I've learned to do is I started saying, "Hey, do you want me to listen?
Yeah.
Or
Or do you want
me to-
feedback?
or do you
Yeah.
want feedback?"
Yeah.
And she and we've got that understanding that she'll say, "Okay, I need help. Like I need you to actually
Yeah.
let me know."
Right.
Or she'll just be like, "Hey babe,
Need a vent.
I just need to vent to you."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm good at that. I'm good at listening. I can shut up and listen, but you gotta let me know that's what
Right.
we're doing
Like you-
because my default is
Well, how we going into it?
Yeah.
how we gonna fix
Solution.
this?
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hear no complaining.
Right.
You know, I don't like complaining.
Me either,
Yeah.
bro.
Nah, let's fix it.
Yo,
So, I think all in all, when we talk about compromises, we have to always look at it from the perspective of suppressing the ego, limiting how we view things, the lens that we view life and reality on,
Mhm.
and also continue to assess how we can improve and how we can make things better.
Right.
Facts.
Right.
Yeah, because what you want me to do with it? That's my first question.
We can't always be fixers,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes
can't
we gotta.
always be
Sometimes
fixers.
there's got to be a shoulder to cry on. Sometimes we
Right.
have to just be open to.
And sometimes you gotta let them fix it
Yeah.
Mhm.
because sometimes they gotta learn how to fix it themselves because you're not always gonna be there.
Absolutely, man. So amazing conversation, compromises within relationships.
Always.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No
Facts.
Think that I want this, I like this, no, I love this. The feeling, I'm lovesick, can't help this, so selfish. You make me weak, oh yeah, yeah. Any day of the week, oh yeah, yeah. Heartbeat on repeat, oh yeah. Goes on and on and on and on. You make me weak, oh yeah, yeah. Any day of the week, oh yeah, yeah.